Thank you for joining us on this frosty winter's evening for Pynchon Pals, a podcast about finally reading Thomas Pynchon. My name is Patrick Fiorilli, and I'm joined, as always, by Andrew Tillett. And Duri Long.
Good evening.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening to tonight's episode, where we're discussing chapters 12 and 13 of Thomas Pynchon's V, a book we are all reading for the first time.
We did not put nearly this much effort into our Halloween or Thanksgiving episodes, Patrick.
That is because I forgot to think about it, but now I'm thinking about it. And
I did not have a frigid winter response prepared, and I just had to go with good evening.
I put y'all on the spot.
Mine was not a frigid winter response. Mine was because today is the 122nd anniversary of the Wright brothers' flight at Kitty Hawk in 1903, Duri. I was mimicking the engine.
Ah, I see. Well, then maybe I can say burr for the cold.
True. For all you Wright brothers heads out there who listen.
Probably yeah. Thomas Pynchon.
You know he was, or is. Yeah, so Patrick was throwing to me because I was supposed to remind everyone that on our episode 2 weeks ago, we announced that we are going to try and do a Q&A episode about V as sort of a final wrap-up before we move on to the Crying of Lot 49. We've gotten a few questions already, but I want to shoot to get a few more really solid ones so that we can really make a good full episode out of it. So, any kind of questions you have, fun, serious questions, silly, avant-garde, macroeconomic,
catatonic
expressionist, any kind of question, really. Send them in. I'm going to read and curate them, and then you can listen to Patrick, Duri, and I do our best to answer them.
Yeah, which means that if you don't get your question read, you know exactly who to blame.
Yourself for not writing a top 10 question.
So yes, we are reading chapters 12 and 13. We've already read them. Hopefully you have as well, which bring us back around to a good solid chunk of whole sick crew experience. Our friend Herbert Stencil is sort of rendered secondary in this section of chapters compared to the goings-on of Benny Profane and Rachel and crew.
We needed a little bit more Benny Profane time.
It's been a minute.
By far the most Benny Profane we've had since the first chapter. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he's doing kind of okay at the beginning.
Yeah, better than he has been in some time.
Better than he has been in some time. Would y'all like a little summary of chapter 12?
Take it away.
Yeah, of course.
We jump into things. Chapter 12 is subtitled, In Which Things Are Not So Amusing. Slab is hosting a whole sick party. Winsome, however, doesn't show because he and McClintock are drowning their sorrows. They end up at Matilda's, where Winsome recognizes Ruby as Paula employing her apparently extremely ambiguous ethnicity. McClintock and Paula, as Ruby, leave a very drunk Rooney in Rachel's empty apartment. Rachel herself is on the hunt for a distraught Esther, who we learn is pregnant. With nowhere else to go, Esther turns to Slab, who suggests an abortion in Cuba and successfully raises the required $300 from the partygoers. Rachel calls on Benny to stop Esther at the airport. With Winsome and McClintock out, they can't drive off in the car, McClintock's Triumph, parked in Winsome's garage, but under the street, they hold each other close and admit their affection. Winsome, waking up in Rachel's apartment, tries to jump out the window, but his life is saved by Pig. Benny and Rachel, swapping cars with the returning McClintock, speed to the airport and track the attention of the cops. Amidst the rumble on the tarmac, Benny finds Fina, who tells him off, and for the first time, Benny admits some responsibility. On the way to Lennox, Paula, having revealed her identity, McClintock resolves to, quote, keep cool, but care.
I've got a bone to pick with y'all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the last episode, you mentioned that you read ahead a little bit.
A little bit.
I had to start reading this first chapter, and on page 2, this absolute bombshell that Paula is Ruby. And you guys were just letting me record the previous episode in the dark.
I could not let our readers have a spoiler if they're reading closely along. I had to keep it close to the chest.
I had it worse, which is that I will admit this on air and I'll stand by it. I totally called this reveal when I was reading the last chapter or the last set of chapters for the first time, and then had that call confirmed in these chapters, but then couldn't mention it on the podcast because I thought sure I would not be able to pull off like a genuine maybe Ruby. Anyone getting sort of like a Paula vibe from Ruby? So I'm sorry, but I want you to know that I was suffering too.
Okay. Apology accepted. I just want our listeners to know that I never read ahead, and I never will unless I have to for some logistical reason.
I didn't wish to, but logistically we had a tight recording schedule this time around.
You mean 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, you're 2 weeks. It's a very tight.
The very tight 2 week timeline.
To get your 40 pages read in the 2 weeks.
I'm a busy lady.
We're all, we're all slow readers, and it takes a lot of time to get through all of these dense, character-filled exploits of the whole sick crew.
Once again, I will say there are quite a few more members of the whole sick crew than I had originally anticipated when I started this book. I thought there were like 6 of them, and the chapter 12 starts off, the party had begun late with a core of only a dozen sick. So the small group of this whole sick crew is only a dozen people. Have we even met a dozen people?
We could try listing them, certainly.
I'd forgotten that Melvin existed. He lives with Slab. Who knew?
Melvin the singer. Can we try listing the whole sick crew? Okay, we've got Rachel.
Rooney, Charisma, Fu.
I'm trying to write these down. Rooney, Rachel, Charisma,
Fu, Esther, Paula.
Esther. Paula is new, but in there, yeah.
In
Paula.
there.
Slab.
Melvin and Raoul.
Yeah, Raoul.
Do we count Stencil and Profane?
Yeah, I mean, Pig, he's in there. They're getting invited to the parties. Brad.
Who is the lazy guy? With the
Fergus.
Electric...
Fergus is there.
Fergus.
Mafia.
Brad and Murray Sable.
Brad and Murray.
Murray the race car driver.
Eigenvalue is in there.
Eigenvalue. McClintock is basically in the whole sick
McClintock
crew.
for sure.
Yeah, I think he's there.
So we've got Rachel, Rooney, Charisma, Fu, Esther, Paula, Slab, Raoul, Melvin, Pig, Fergus, Mafia, Brad, Murray, Eigenvalue, McClintock, and we'll put Benny up there. Put Profane.
What does that
here.
bring us to?
Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 members.
Okay, but I feel like with the line, the core is only a dozen sick. I feel like there must be like 48 members of the whole sick crew.
Well, we learned they're still taking on members. Like there's an undergrad here who we'll get to who makes.
We forgot Pig Bodine.
I put Pig on here.
I forgot Pig Bodine.
We counted Pig.
Sorry.
The whole sick crew, it's like a solar system, right? Like, I'm not sure who the sun is in this analogy. I didn't really think it through before I started speaking. But there's like a couple of big planets. Like Rachel is like the Earth. Stencil is Saturn.
Stencil. We forgot Stencil, so that puts us to 16.
I said Stencil.
Yeah, we said Stencil. Rooney, I think, would be a major planet in there, maybe a Venus. And then you've got all these little
sleeping at Rooney's place, so he's got to be.
You've got all these little asteroids in the middle that once in a while become relevant, but they just kind of get stirred up. But they're out there somewhere, and that's who I think. Yeah. The sick crew. It's just you invite the group chat, they invite their group chats. Mm-hmm. There's a telephone tree, and everyone comes over to Slab, Melvin, and Raoul's to see their granite toilet.
Yeah, what's the 50s version of the group chat?
A telephone.
Telephone tree?
It is yeah. It's like kindergarten all over again. It's the last time I had a telephone tree.
We're at this party. They're in a loft that is not technically legal, as warehouse lofts so often are.
I liked the foreshadowing of the sort of gentrification of the neighborhood.
Yeah, the Pynchon describes that they're hung about Raoul's slab and Melvin's pad a climate of impermanence, as if the sand sculptures, unfinished canvases, thousands of paperback books suspended in tiers of cement blocks and warped planks, even the great marble toilets.
The great marble toilet.
There you go. Stolen from a mansion in the East 70s, were all part of a set to an experimental play which its cabal of faceless angels could cause to be struck at any moment without having to give their reasons. The thing that this particular kind of simile made me think of is that we know Thomas Pynchon wrote like a weird avant-garde libretto when he was in college, unpublished. Maybe it's in the archive that we mentioned last time that'll be published after his death. And there's a lot of references to playwrights and avant-garde theater in this book. Ionesco is mentioned at one point. Thomas Pynchon kind of seems like a theater nerd in a big way. That. Like, I think there's a certain theatricality, and there's enough like references and also descriptions of things that feel very theatrical that I feel confident in saying this.
I like that theory. Yeah. I believe you. I'm sold. Also, just like the vibe of the whole sit crew, surely someone in the whole sit crew has to be in the theater.
Well, we know there's a TV writer, at the very least.
I feel like someone has to be acting in like an off Broadway performance.
I feel like acting takes too much effort for a member of the whole sit crew to pull off. You have to like go to rehearsals. You have to read the script.
You have to audition.
Yeah, it's sort of too tactile of a job. You actually got to like do things on time. And I just can't imagine anyone in the whole sit crew doing a matinee.
Maybe there's a performance artist.
Yeah, is the whole sit crew just where does Rent the musical fall on the whole sit crew spectrum?
I did think about Rent when we entered this sort of warehouse party scene. It did cross my mind.
So yeah, what do we're at this party
with the toilet, which I would like to remind, this is our third toilet.
A third toilet in as many episodes.
Yes.
I guess not quite. There wasn't, as far as I can recall, a toilet in Mondoggin's story.
3 and 4 though isn't bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about these parties? I think they sound kind of fun.
They sound like a good time. I mean, I guess it's to skip ahead a little bit. They talk about when Rachel gets there late, and she's.
It doesn't seem like a good party to stay around for a long time. Let me put it that way.
But she like comes up the stairs and they're all just like on the stairs, drunk, making out. Melvin pulls out his guitar, probably every party, and does a sing-along. And
many things are
undoubtedly.
Many things are soaked in vomit, sometimes human, sometimes dog.
I'm worried about what happened to that dog.
I don't think anything good happened to that dog. Then again, that dog may reappear in a sort of like paranoid fantasy later in the book, and I would also not be surprised.
I hope the St. Bernard came out all right.
I wouldn't be shocked if the dog's on the Susanna Squiducci going to Malta with him.
So yes, there's a party. There's a bunch of wine in the fridge.
Speaking of animals, there's 2 cats.
It's 2 cats. You got to have something to chase around what I'm assuming like a ludicrous amount of mice that are probably running around this warehouse. But Rooney isn't there because he is very sad because of Mafia once again.
Me and Mafia get into it, and Mafia kind of hits the nail on the head with the whole sit crew. Let's see. What does she say? She says, if you ever tried to create, she yelled, instead of live off what other people create, you'd understand. And this is why they can't be actors.
Yeah, you're so right. They're just they're critics. Sorry, Patrick.
It's fair. What is that? It's that shirt that Charlie XCX wore that one time that said, like, they don't make statues of critics. This is what I imagine Mafia wearing in this scene.
Yeah, well, it seems like a lot of people are kind of questioning the whole sit crew. Like, Eigenvalue had these same concerns in the last chapter that he was never going to be a patron of the arts because the whole sit crew was not creating anything of value.
Winsome himself goes through a litany of criticisms a little bit later in this chapter.
Indeed, he does, which we'll get to. But in order to get there, we have to go on a little
journey,
a journey,
a yo-yo
uptown, where after Winsome meets McClintock, and they head to Matilda's rooming house / bordello, where the old lady hears, quote, Winsome's rebel accent and gets a little, like a little wigged out, which is understandable because he's pretty racist.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised that Winsome, what we know about his past does not paint him as the most open person. Anyways, I was surprised that Winsome and McClintock were friends.
Yeah, perhaps more surprised even that McClintock is friendly enough with Winsome.
Yes.
But
although it's not clear how much McClintock knows about Winsome, other than, I guess, the rebel accent.
Yeah, and he, sees in him a guy who may very well flip at any moment.
Yeah, but then again, like, based on McClintock's description in the previous chapter, like, the whole sick crew, like, and everyone at the, like, what is it? Where does McClintock play the V-note? Yeah, like, also, like, even the ones that, like, are purportedly, like, liberal are all kind of racist. So maybe they're all one and the same.
Isn't this this is sort of Rooney's beef with Mafia, is that, like, she's racist in, like, a really out there way.
Yeah, in an aggressive, sort of outwardly fascistic.
Yeah, and he wants his racism to be, like, subdued. So he's, like, a racist, but he, like, I guess still hangs out.
Yeah, he believes that the racism is so deeply ingrained in his soul and his heritage that it doesn't need to become an outward display. Yeah,
exactly. It's just part of him.
Which, I think Pynchon may have the number of a certain type of Southern guy.
100% these people exist.
These people exist. Some of them still live in Durham. So when they get to Matilda's, McClintock has to go upstairs and sort of act like a little bit of a bouncer or hired muscle in one of the rooms as Ruby descends and explains, that no one knows who she is, actually, Paula. Winsome asks, like, how did you make that happen? Because, like, presumably, meaning how everyone here is black. Why do they think that you are black? And she first makes a joke that she uses, quote, burnt cork like a minstrel show. But then he kind of puts two and two together and thinks that, like, well, Mafia thinks you're German and I thought you were Puerto Rican. So maybe this is just like a secret skill that you have, basically. And riffing on some of the questions of Maltese ethnicity and identity from the last chapter, and bringing them up to speed in this contemporary context.
Why do we think Paula has landed here?
It seems like it might be like somewhere that she didn't think anyone else would find her.
Why has she been trying to hide?
That's a good question. I mean, we know Pappy Hod is looking for her, right? Or
we also know that Rachel is sort of constantly looking for her and saying that, like, she's not a very good girl. So it seems like Rachel maybe, like, knows that she's engaged in sex work.
Presumably Rachel knows she's not, like, coming home at the end of every night.
Yeah, and everyone's constantly asking where Paula is. So, like, is Pappy Hod that, like, imminently close that she's hiding from him?
I guess we may find out.
She can't just be hiding from Pappy, though, right? I mean, Pig is Pappy's emissary. Pappy's off on a ship somewhere. So and, like, Pig is a known quantity to an extent. Like, he's not, I feel like even if Paula was around, he wouldn't, I feel like he would just keep hanging out, Like,
well, yes, but we do see what happens
we see
when
later
Pig gets alone with...
Yes, but, like, he isn't, it's not like he's going to dog the bounty hunter her back to Norfolk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that is correct.
Yeah, I think it's still a little ambiguous, like, why Paula has taken on this second identity.
Well, and it recontextualizes some of the conversations she had with McClintock in the last chapters about, her relationship
with
to
her dad.
Her dad, and maybe Fausto's out there trying to figure out where she's landed a little bit.
Yeah, like, I guess she's not hiding from Stencil because Stencil's kind of been hiding from her.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, I still had that question coming up for me. It was like, why is Paula why has Paula been taking on this alternative identity?
Yeah, at this point though, Winsome is quite drunk, and so McClintock has the idea that they should all go to Lenox, Massachusetts,
which is where he's from, right?
So
is that right?
He played a jazz festival there in the last episode.
Played a jazz
and
festival
I guess
there.
he just took to it.
Yeah,
unclear. It seems nice. It's not hot.
Yeah, he wants to head back, but they effectively just drop McClintock, or they drop Winsome off at Rachel's place because he kind of wants to grab her to tag along, but she's not there. And instead the phone rings, and it is Rachel, who is calling from a payphone, presumably.
1950s, crazy. Having to use a payphone to call your own home to see if your roommate is there.
To see if anyone is there. At which point he starts
singing to her.
He starts singing to her. Before that, there's like a really creepy but also kind of funny line where Winsome sees only her slip tossed awry on the bed. He picked it up, black and slippery slip, he thought, and kissed it on the left breast, which is where it starts to get creepy. But it's I liked slippery slip.
Winsome is always making funny jokes about women's lingerie. I feel like he had that other comment earlier that was like, is it a peignoir set? Is it a slip? Is it a nightgown? Who's to say? They are all the same to me.
He's simply interested in an academic sense of what's going on here. But yeah, he does sing another song.
And Rachel hangs up on him, which I thought was kind of funny.
He rhymes Nueva York ciudad with see you dad.
There was another good rhyme in here. Oh, yeah. Up in the country of Alden and Walden, country to grow sentimental and bald in.
Yeah.
That one really got me.
That's a good one.
This is why he's the best in the business, I guess.
Walden and Balden.
Winsome seems like he sings a ton. So I feel like Rachel here is not only hang up on him because he's propositioning her, but also probably because he's just the guy who sings a lot on the phone, and it's I gotta move on with my day kind of hang up. Like I can't today with this bit.
I'm too busy.
As we leave Winsome there, just sitting on the bed, and we later learn that he's about to sort of fall asleep or black out, we learn that, quote, Esther had indeed got her ass in a sling. Her emotional ass, anyway.
Yeah, and so we see this scene of Esther and Rachel in the laundry room where Esther is crying and Rachel's trying to get Esther to like tell her what's wrong, and then Esther like runs away from Rachel, and they're like chasing each other until a laundry machine like sort of explodes, and Rachel goes to like deal with that, and then Esther disappears, which is just a very Esther and Rachel scene.
This really returns us to our kind of slapstick, like silly fight with a bunch of laundry suds everywhere.
Yeah, like clothes hanging.
Pig shows up while Rachel is mopping and basically accuses her of not knowing how to swab effectively.
Because he was in the Navy, you see.
Yeah, Pig was in the Navy and he swabbed the deck a lot because he was permanently on some kind of punishment. But then Rachel chases after him swinging the mop, or I guess technically spinning the mop at him, and Pig flees. So that's also very slapstick.
Yeah, and it kind of this section ends with the line, "Fever was touching them all," which reminded me of our time at Fopples when everyone started to go a little crazy. Everyone was getting some sort of fever or disease. Was it syphilis? Was it insanity for being in this castle too long? I feel like we've seen analogies made to the same kind of decadence happening with the whole Sick crew, and now they're all like kind of losing it a little bit.
Getting a little stir crazy, sort of in your friend group.
Flipping.
werewolf season. I don't want to forget about that one.
Yeah, have we unpacked that at all?
Is that
why is this werewolf
Is it
season?
werewolf season because werewolves flip? Like the moon comes out and you flip and then you flop back? Like, is that...
I like that, Andrew. I had not put that together. But yeah, duality, man and animal all in the same being.
That's smart. We can close the book on this right there.
Yeah,
We've
that's
solved
great.
the mystery of
10
werewolf
out of 10, Andrew.
season.
Great interpretation.
Oh. Pig, evil-minded pig, inferred right for once, it says, when he suggests that perhaps Esther is pregnant with Schoenmaker's baby.
Yeah, so Esther goes to Slab. Slab's like, shit, like, it's Schoenmaker, isn't he?
Slab's working on cheese Danish number 56. add another tally to the cheese Danish counter.
Well, he's
done
added
15 in this month. He is, say what you, I mean, maybe the cheese Danish's paintings getting a little old, but he's productive. He's prolific.
And he calls Schoenmaker out. He's like, I know Schoenmaker won't give you a dime, and really sees Schoenmaker for who he is. And then proceeds to suggest that Esther get an abortion.
Do you remember
specifically
way back when it was like, Esther's going to go to Cuba soon? And we're all like,
yeah.
I wonder what that's about.
Sounds like a nice vacation.
Oh, yeah. That was like in the chapter with Schoenmaker, right? The kind of her first encounter with Schoenmaker.
Yeah, like
yeah.
very early on.
Let me jump back in my book. I'll read it.
It's like the last line.
This is for the last 8 bars. This is when Schoenmaker is singing a song about till you've cut into Esther, you've cut nothing at all. She's one of the best to her nose I'm in thrall. Remember this one?
Mm-hmm. Everyone in the whole sick crew can really bust out a rhyme on the spot.
Indeed, they can. For the last 8 bars, she chanted no on 1 and 3. Such was the, as it were, Jacobean etiology of Esther's eventual trip to Cuba, which see.
Interesting.
Yep.
Do we know what Jacobean etiology means?
So an etiology is like a cause of something in a medical sense. Like, you know, if you work in the mills or shipyards, that might be the etiology of a mesothelioma diagnosis, which was the first example that came to mind for me, thanks to television advertisements. But Jacobean, there seems to be some debate on this, as I remember from looking it up. The consensus seems to be that it refers to like Jacobean dramas, like in that era of English playwriting and drama. So following, I think it's following, not before, like the Elizabethan period in English drama. And the Jacobean plays were all about like revenge and violence, and they were a lot more graphic, I guess, than the sort of stately Elizabethan comedies and tragedies. And so it would seem to mean it is this is the violent cause of Esther's eventual trip to Cuba. Yeah.
Okay.
Thomas Pynchon, theater nerd, confirmed?
You know what? He's also referencing Shakespeare at various points. A lot of Shakespeare. Throughout the book.
Yeah, and I don't want to give too much away, but Jacobean drama features in a big way in Crying of Lot 49.
Reading ahead again.
That doesn't count. So yes, this is Slab suggests going to Cuba.
Esther does not seem 100% on board with this plan, but also doesn't seem to have sort of enough gumption to stick up for herself.
Yeah, Slab says, for all his fascist tendencies, Batista has one golden virtue. Abortion, he maintains, is legal, which means you get an MD who knows what he's about, not some fumbling amateur. It's clean, it's safe, it's legal, above all, it's cheap. And Esther replies, it's murder. And Slab says, you've turned RC. Good show. For some reason, it always becomes fashionable during a decadence. Which reminded me in a big way of all of the think pieces from a few years ago about trad calves sort of trending in annoying right-wing social cliques in New York and elsewhere.
We end up seeing a decent number of perspectives on abortion from all the members of the crew.
Turns into a really central theme in this section of the book.
Yeah, and it was in the last chapter as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get, Slab, pro-abortion for
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice. Esther, anti-abortion, seemingly.
Question mark, but also she goes to Cuba?
She follows through. Rachel, anti-abortion, but from a mother's health perspective, given that it's the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Benny also doesn't seem super concerned. Very pro-choice.
Could not care less.
Absolutely
Seems not
doesn't
to
care at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we get part of the, there is, at some point a little later on in this chapter, Melvin, I think, starts singing songs about the paragon of progressivism and mutual aid, who is Slab, sort of sticking up for the community and bringing everyone's common interests toward helping out those who need it among them.
Yeah, Slab does what probably
Yeah.
is like the last thing in the world a woman in the 1950s who's sort of accidentally pregnant by her sort of psychopathic plastic surgeon would want. And at this party where all of Esther's friends, former lovers, enemies are present, he like gets up on top of the marble toilet as like a stage and announces a fundraiser to raise money to send Esther to Cuba to get an abortion, which Esther has not really agreed to at this stage, but then proceeds to collect loose change from all of the members of the whole sick crew in order to fund this sort of like mutual aid trip for Esther.
Yeah, he initially tries to call all his friends with savings accounts, and then the next sentence
so he
is,
does try to keep it sort of like on a need-to-know basis as best he can, but that doesn't work.
Esther did not even consent to this, I want to be clear.
Yeah, they have a long conversation in a whole sick crew manner that we don't get the whole thing, but it's kind of summarized for us as they quoted Ligurian tracts, Galen, Aristotle, David Reisman, T.S. Eliot in this like long-winded philosophical proper noun-filled discussion about the ethics of this decision before, eventually giving up on the point. And, Esther kind of agrees.
I don't think she like explicitly agrees.
Oh, she doesn't explicitly agree. She gives up.
Esther at one point, it says is giving a point-by-point condemnation of Slab's moral code, and then turns to assault cheese Danish number 45 with windmilling nails.
Number 56.
Number 50. I'm so sorry, Slab.
And Slab says, go ahead, it will help the texture.
Yeah, there is some mean back and forth in a couple of these chapters.
Yeah.
A lot of vicious arguments occur. Back to how many members of the whole sick crew are there? They raised $295 from these people in the I'm shocked they had this much cash on them. There has to be like 100
Do we need to go to
here.
inflationcalculator.org
Yes,
or whatever?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov. In what month is this? I can do by this August.
This August or September of 1956, yeah.
August 1956. I wish this was about sort of like a more like a sillier thing to raise money for, but I guess we can get the exact price of this particular
I will
solution.
say Slab raises money for this very serious thing in the silliest way possible.
It's true.
By passing around a Greek helmet left over from somebody's frat party in order to collect the loose change from the whole sick crew.
It's a pith helmet with Greek letters on it, which is the like explorers, like the old colonialist explorer helmet. You know that thing?
No.
Like imagine like a old English explorer like combing through the jungle with a machete, and he's got like the suit on with like the belt around it, and he's got one of those white canvased helmets.
That's how I pictured Goodfellow the entire time.
Yeah, in a big way.
Goodfellow
Which
was
I
certainly wearing this hat the whole time.
I think it ties into some of the like colonialist themes, or that the whole sick crew has been around for generations on generations of.
I have never seen one of these before, but yeah, interesting. We've got the pith helmet. We've got the wide awake hat.
Mm-hmm.
The colonial haberdashery in this book.
A lot of wide brimmed hats. For sure.
Oh God.
I want the listeners to know. I don't know. I'm going to put this one in the show notes, but apparently, if you Google pith helmet, as Andrew has, you
one
can
of the
find
first images that comes up.
You can find a certain first lady wearing one, which is as appropriate as anything.
Oh, yeah, that is one of the first things that comes up. Wow.
It wouldn't be my choice, but the inflation calculator. Are you ready to hear the numbers? Does anybody want to take a guess?
1,800?
Nope.
Now, is it more than 4 digits?
It is more than 4 digits. I mean, like it is 4 digits. There are 4 digits in it.
Okay, 9,730.
No, it is $3,569. Is $300 in 1956. So it's $3,500.
That's
substantial amount of money to raise at a party.
Yeah,
especially
out
for
of
people who
people's
don't
wallets.
Have jobs, not one.
Some of them do have jobs.
Surely
though.
some of them are coming from some family money.
Yeah, some of them have family money. Some of them do actually just have jobs, and as we learned earlier on, sort of like Time magazine subscriptions.
Brad, how much do you think Brad contributed
got
to
some
this
money in his pocket.
It's the like non-core members of the whole sick crew who like are respectable but just want to be bohemians. They've got the cash,
and they're very pro-choice.
Indeed, they are.
Yeah, so they raise the money and then promptly like decide to like carry Esther to the airport.
They go to Idlewild tonight,
which we learned was the former JFK.
Yeah, they renamed it JFK. I've read several James Bond novels, and they were always like flying into Idlewild, and every time I have to be like, where is Idlewild?
That's kind of a cool name for an airport, I'm not going to lie.
Apparently it was the name of the golf course that they built the airport on top of back in the day.
Interesting.
Idlewild Golf Course. I just want to read what I thought was just the very funny description of Slab that Melvin was singing, crediting him, this quote, crediting him with being a neo-wobbly and reincarnation of Joe Hill, who was like a labor activist and like songwriter who also went to jail for alleged murder and became sort of like a martyr in the American labor movement. B, the world's leading pacifist. C, a rebel with taproots in the American tradition. D, in militant opposition to fascism, private capital, the Republican administration, and Westbrook Pegler. This is reminding me something that I wanted to mention in previous episodes. One of the working titles for this book apparently was The Republican Party is a Machine. I'm kind of glad Pynchon went with V, but according to some of the sources, I don't know.
How could the title not have been V the whole time? What?
Allegedly, one of the working titles, there were like 5 other working titles or something.
What are the other working titles?
I'm not sure if they've been enumerated, but one of them apparently was The Republican Party is a Machine.
Interesting. I feel like V's a better fit.
I also think from sort of like a publishing and thematic perspective.
Can you imagine you buy a book called The Republican Party is a Machine, and then every other chapter is 75 pages about a mysterious woman named V?
You know, maybe we haven't gotten there. We haven't gotten there yet, but maybe the Republican Party becomes like a major antagonist in the latter part of the book.
Yeah, I feel like what was the machine we were talking about in the last chapter was like the partridge and the tree and the partridge dropping. The partridge and the pear tree is the one machine we've sort of met so far.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to point out on this page is that Slab gets a Ford Foundation grant, which is...
not Slab. Fergus.
No, Fergus.
Oh, sorry, yes. Fergus
Mixolydian has a Ford
Fergus
Foundation
Mixolydian,
grant.
back at it like he never left.
He was the lazy one who was also coming up with all these inventions.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha.
Truly a throwback.
This is particularly funny because it is on record that Thomas Pynchon, at the age of 22, so presumably while he was writing this book, applied for a Ford Foundation grant, kind of in a last-minute, somewhat thrown together application touting his, like, the several eras of his artistic career up to this point that have produced, like, a handful of short stories. And he wanted to use the Ford Foundation grant to develop and eventually perform this avant-garde libretto that he was working on. And it was not awarded to him, let's say. For which reason he has in this book some harsh words to say about the Ford family and the Ford Foundation. I just wanted to note those two things at this juncture.
Yeah, so then Rachel shows up at the party, like finds out that Esther's on the way to the airport and decides that she needs to chase after her and try to stop her, but she doesn't have a car. And so then they try to like solicit a car for her from the crew, but the crew has already been generous enough with all the money for Esther. And so no one offers her a car, and she turns to calling her good friend and
born
possibly,
pedestrian.
Yeah, future love, Benny Profane.
Who does not have a car.
It was at this point early in the morning that Rachel thought of Profane. He would be off shift now. Dear Profane.
Yeah, she's become like sort of increasingly fond of Profane, as we've
Just
been
like
describing. Us. You know, I mean, have we? I don't know.
Like yo-yos.
Yo-yos.
Yeah.
Depending on the chapter.
At the beginning of the chapter, I was big on Profane.
There's a lot of discussion in these two chapters about the notion of dependency, both in terms of sort of social dependency and people relying on each other and people taking care of each other, and also, as we see here, and as Rachel is sort of thinking about it, like dependency as an income tax thing. I don't really know what to do with that, but I'm curious to see if this theme develops throughout the rest of the book. Like in the last set, I feel like we got a lot about this idea of accidents and causality, and these two chapters have a lot of people, like, quote unquote, taking on dependence.
Yeah, and taking on dependence, but not wanting to take on dependence. And I mean, I think that calls back to Profane's like early relationship with Paula. Like he didn't really want to take on Paula as a dependent. I think he was worried about taking on Fina as a dependent.
In spite of the fact that people kind of keep taking him on as dependents.
Yes.
And feeding him and housing him.
Profane comes home. And Mafia is playing musical blankets, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. Probably devised by Mafia and Charisma, who's to say?
Yeah, you put those two great minds together and fireworks are bound to be the result.
Mm-hmm.
So Profane has the idea to use Winsome's Buick. Unfortunately, he goes down to the parking garage and no Buick. Instead,
we know that the Buick is with McClintock and Ruby, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So they've taken his Buick. The Triumph is there, but McClintock took the keys.
There's so much in this chapter about, like, who has what keys to what car that I find really funny. I was like, as I was reading, I was like, okay, the Buick is out of the garage where the Buick was because they swapped cars, but McClintock took the keys to the Triumph.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very New York City problem to be like, it's late at night. I got to get somewhere. How do I get there? I need a car. Who has a car? Like we got to find the one buddy who has a car.
Who has a car.
Yeah.
And curiously enough, it's the same person who has a giant espresso machine that's big enough to sit on top of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the two richest members of the whole sit crew are McClintock, Sphere, and Rooney Winsome.
I don't know that McClintock is like, I think McClintock seems to do well enough to like afford a car and sort of like carouse a bit, but I guess he is still he doesn't have like I can't remember. Does he have like a recording contract with Outlandish Records or not?
They were setting one up, and he definitely
They're setting one up. That's right.
He definitely does recording because that's where all of the flipping and flopping and set and reset is him like learning about recording technology. But Outlandish Records must do numbers.
Yeah, people want those Volkswagens in hi-fi.
Yeah, although we also know that Rooney comes from some perhaps ill-begotten family money.
Indeed. Rachel shows up, and they kind of they really get into it.
Yeah, they start talking a lot about this idea of dependency, like why is Rachel so concerned about Esther? And then Rachel kind of references Benny's friends, Angel and Geronimo, and says, I mean, I love Esther like you love the dispossessed, the wayward. And so they're kind of talking about their like love for these different people and their need to care for them as less related to like love and more related to like wanting to have like a dependent and save someone. And then they talk about how Rachel talks about how like she sees herself in Esther and how Profane sees himself in like the bums on and under the street. And that's why they care for these people.
Yeah, speaking of sort of like extremely embittered words said back and forth, as Rachel puts it, just as it is Profane, the depression kid, that lump that wasn't aborted, that became an awareness on the floor of one old Hooverville shack in 32. It's him you see in every no-name drifter, mooch, squares tenant, him you love. And Profane is sort of taken aback by all of this, as is like Esther. They both seem surprised at them having this conversation right now.
Profane does something you should never do with a woman you're trying to sleep with, which is mention how she used to sleep with your friend. Bad call, Benny. He also kicks a tire here for the first of like 25 times in this chapter. We'll keep a tally.
Yeah, says he keeps kicking inanimate tires.
Yeah, which gets called out in the companion to V here as being an expression of his relationship to inanimacy and also schlemielhood. That, of course, if you kick a tire, it's going to go out on you because you're both taking out your aggression, but also checking to make sure that it's not already deflated. There's a decent chunk of this chapter's annotations taken up by kicking tires. So you're on the money, Andrew.
But then, despite Profane's sort of lack of suaveness,
Profane's profanity.
Surely
maybe.
There's a better word for that. Anyways, tack. I feel like I'm searching for something, but
lack of
Riz,
but like I'm thinking more like smooth talker, like lack of. Anyways,
Profane's lacking something.
He's lacking something. Yeah, he's not great with the ladies, although he seems to be kind of great with the ladies. Anyways, despite this, he and Rachel kind of get together. Shockingly,
they do. There's like a physical proximity here that draws them close to each other as Profane asks himself, or says to himself, "You ask too many questions," he told himself. "Stop asking, take, give, whatever she wants to call it. Whether the bulge is in your skivvies or your brain, do something. She doesn't know, you don't know."
Yeah, and
kind
Profane
of a classic.
has not...
Go ahead, Duri.
I was just going to say, Profane has not done something in this book so far, frankly. And so it's nice to see him kind of do something. Like, he seems to at least like briefly sort of like physically connect with and touch Rachel.
Yeah, their bodies get closer together. They smush together in a way that's sort of described in more physical detail than we've gotten about other characters, or more physical tenderness, maybe tinged with sexuality, than we have gotten in other descriptions of characters in this book so far. And Rachel now only wanted to hold him. She was evolving schemes to make him lose weight, exercise more. Like they picture themselves together, at least for Rachel, for the first time, maybe.
Pynchon goes absolutely in on Benny's body in these two chapters.
Yeah.
It's a little bit much. But I was just going to say, this is a classic trope, right? Like the sort of heat of the argument into sort of the lover's embrace. We've seen
Heat
it
of
a
the
million
argument,
times.
the heat of the embrace, yeah.
The heat of the car that hasn't been started because they still don't have the keys.
At which point McClintock finds them and says, and here I think is something revealing, he thinks to himself, underground garage for a dancing floor, so they dance all over the cities. We're below the street. Of course this happens below the street. It's an underground garage.
We're in Benny's, like, we're in his realm.
This
like
is
his safe zone.
Yeah, this is the realm. This is the domain. This is where the id is reigning under the enamel, under the street. It's all coming together.
Well, under the street or above the street, I was happy to see Profane take some sort of action towards his betterment at this particular moment in time. I was like, oh, thank God, he's finally...
There's something here that resembles happiness.
Yeah, like he's finally done something good for himself.
It finally happens for your OTP, Andrew.
I'm excited, and there's a few spots I guess we'll get to as we get to them, but he almost starts seeming like he's like picking himself up a little bit. Like he sort of tries to shed the schlemiel outlook that he imposes on himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's short-lived, but I really liked that.
Starts.
I really liked the couple of paragraphs where it was happening.
Yeah, I was like, let's go, Benny.
I am
You're
in
headed
Benny's
somewhere.
corner. It's a real, they had us in the first half, not gonna lie, situation.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut to Winsome, who had passed out on Rachel's bed. We had left him in Rachel's apartment. And it says he came awake from a dream of defenestration, which I had to ask before this episode started what that meant.
It's getting thrown out of a window. Yeah,
the defenestration of Prague, Duri.
What a specific word! I did not know such a word existed.
I first encountered it, oddly enough, in Pynchon's presumable teacher at Cornell, Nabokov's novel. I think it's The Lusian Defense, or it's translated in English, I think, as The Defense, but there's a lengthy description of defenestration that maybe has some like etymology mixed in there. So if you're looking for more defenestration content,
window is like
fenestra.
Yeah.
Anyways, he doesn't just dream of defenestration. He sort of tries to put it in action by trying to jump out of Rachel's window.
This whole segment is just the peak slapstick comedy.
And,
I guess for the listener who hasn't read it, Winsome
and you could probably tell this is about to be a real.
Winsome does not die, and in the most whole sick crew way, he and Pig sort of go at it.
Indeed, they do. But before that happens, Winsome kind of gives a funereal oration screed against the whole sick crew.
A sort of burn book, if you will.
Uh-huh. About, Fergus Mixolydian, the Irish Armenian Jew, takes money from a foundation named after a man who spent millions trying to prove 13 rabbis rule the world. It's a reference to the protocols of the elders of Zion, that old conspiracy theory about the Jewish plot for world domination.
Yeah, Esther Harvitz pays to get the body she was born with altered and then falls deeply in love with the man who mutilated her.
Raoul, the television writer, can produce drama deceivious enough to slip by any sponsor's roadblock and still tell the starring fans what's wrong with them and what they're watching. But he's happy with westerns and detective stories. I don't really understand how that's a criticism. I'm confused by this one. He's really stretching on Raoul.
He doesn't commit to the greatness of his art. He just sells schlock for mass appeal.
He could do better.
Which, is not as big a criticism as
maybe. Some of these were a little bit more biting.
This part, once again, feels extremely theatrical. I feel like you can see in your mind's eye how this would be staged as a little monologue.
I was sort of exclusively picturing sort of Regina George writing in the Burn book and Mean Girls, like like Rooney Winsome's sort of like final note before committing suicide is to write down his beef with each member of the whole sick crew.
His speaking this into existence though wakes Pig Bodine, or at least alerts Pig Bodine, who's just hanging out in the other room, that Winsome intends to jump. And he tells Winsome, "Don't you know life is the most precious possession you have?" Which again, Pig, maybe sort of more intelligent than we're giving him credit for at points.
Which is a joke from, doesn't that come up in chapter 1? Someone tells that exact joke. It's because, like, life is the most precious possession you have because when you lose it, something. Like, this is a ployism or something, I want to say.
I forgot about
God,
that.
I can't believe I stood up for Pig here. Only to find out he's quoting ploy.
But Winsome wakes Pig up because he tries jumping out the window and lands 3 feet down on the fire escape. So slapstick number 1.
Yeah.
And before he can go, he tries to again jump from the fire escape, but Pig grabs his belt and he's just kind of hanging, I guess, upper part of torso over the edge, legs over still the fire escape. And they're sort of struggling like that for an extended period until Pig tells a joke, which causes Winsome to laugh. And then Pig is able to pull him back across the edge to safety.
And during this whole sort of debacle, a drunk sort of in the alleyway, like, sees them and then starts like calling on the neighbors to come out and watch the suicide. And someone calls the cops as like they're chasing each other. So Winsome keeps getting away and Pig keeps chasing Winsome as Winsome is still trying to like jump. And meanwhile, the cops have showed up. They've spread out a net to like catch Winsome when he falls. And in the amusing, or maybe calling back to the beginning of this chapter, not so amusing end of this, is that Winsome gets down to the first landing. The net is spread out and Pig says, "You still want to jump?" And Winsome says, "Yes." And Pig says, "Go ahead." So he jumps off the one landing and then lands in the net.
Yeah, it is a really dark sort of what's his name, like a Charlie Chaplin routine or something. I found the joke from chapter 1 in my copy. This is on page 12. I'll read here. "Man, I want to die is all," cried Ploy. "Don't you know," said Dahoud, "that life is the most precious possession you have?" "Ho ho," said Ploy through his tears. "Why?" "Because," said Dahoud, "without it, you'd be dead."
Oh, is this when he was really depressed about his teeth?
I think so, yes. Yes, correct. So this is a callback, as it were, speaking of comedy, I guess.
So then, I guess, can I say that the police take Winsome to the Rooney bin?
Hey.
Indeed, they do.
Bellevue Hospital,
yep.
And then there's a very funny line, which says, Pig, suddenly realizing that he had been AWOL for 8 months today, and that cop may be defined as civilian shore patrolman, turned and raced fleetly up the fire escape for Rachel's window. So he kind of decides to hide from the cops because he thinks they'll catch him for being AWOL.
Yeah, I like that
he
Pig
puts on a
being
disguise.
AWOL. Pig being AWOL this entire time is just sort of like a running gag, which I think is funny.
Oh yeah, he does put on a disguise. I forgot about that, Andrew.
He puts on, what does it say he puts on? He puts on an old dress of Esther's and a babushka and starts talking in a falsetto just in case the cops come and question him, which they don't.
Yeah, and these two chapters hate cops in a big way, in a way that we have not seen quite so much in the rest of the book. But here we get the cops were so stupid they'd never know the difference. And we get more sort of bumbling, buffoonish cops quite soon after this, and then again before the end of the next chapter.
Yeah, there's a lot of cross-dressing across these chapters, which I haven't quite put I think you brought this up earlier, Patrick. I haven't quite put my finger on it, except that maybe it relates to this like duality.
Yeah, I think it's the duality, and in maybe a less generous or less thematic sense, like this is your classic figuring of cross-dressing as somehow related to decadence or social decay. Some of this reminds me of a lot of the old like exploitation or like Italian slasher giallo movies, where oftentimes the reveal at the end would be
Was it the bad priest that brought you there?
The bad priest, but also like the killer at the end of the movie is revealed to be like a man wearing a dress or something, or like this is a theme that crops up in certain kinds of as for shock value in certain kinds of stories, which is maybe a less generous read. Maybe could be possible that Pynchon is doing something with that, but I'm not convinced one way or the other at this point.
We will see.
Mm-hmm.
We're at Idlewild.
Yeah, we're at the airport.
There's a little baby named Cucarachita.
Cucarachita.
Not Cucarachito.
Did this remind you at all of Don to Don, Patrick?
Which part reminds me of Don to Don?
Chiquitita.
Oh, Chiquitita. Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe it was just the like resonance of the names.
Yeah.
And having like a cute little one that the crew is rallying around.
Yeah, but so this is Cucarachita, and Kook from back when is the nickname Cucarachito, which I think they're just the masculine and feminine forms of like little cockroach. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. That's how the Spanish works. They're a Puerto Rican family, and they're here because the plane that Esther has bought a ticket for is going to Miami, Havana, and then San Juan. So Rachel and Profane have sort of spread out across the airport in an attempt to figure out where she's at, and they eventually locate her on the tarmac boarding the plane.
And Slab is sort of chasing her onto the plane. Like he's trying to keep Rachel and Benny from getting to her.
Yeah,
Slab
he's
is running
sort of
defense.
Exactly. And then the whole family of this little girl starts to sing and play instruments. The cops are there. They're kind of breaking up this event that is described as, I think, being similar to a riot. This is all occurring at the base of the airplane.
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's pre-2001.
For our younger listeners. This,
there did not used to be airport security.
Right up. Well, there is airport security in this very chapter. They are just ineffective, and it is all happening right next to the plane.
Speaking of like mean arguments, like Rachel and Slab get into it. Rachel says, "You've slammed her," meaning Esther, around. Yelled Rachel, "You trying to total her?" Which I felt was interesting, given all the car imagery and given Rachel's relationship to cars, that like she's comparing Esther to a car.
Yeah, and we didn't mention this when it came up, but when Rachel and Profane are embracing, one of the lines is the girl's ass one hand moved to automatic, and so it's like automatically one's hand moves there, but also automatic feels like a transmission or a gear shift in a way that feels very mechanical. A lot of that interaction feels mechanical in some sense, which goes back to Rachel and her MG.
And then
again, we get whistles started blowing. The area between the rail and the DC-3 was swelling into a small-scale riot. Why not? It was August, and cops do not like Puerto Ricans. Again, just a little dig at New York police departments.
Yeah, and then as Benny is trying to chase after Esther, he sees Esther like running to get on to the plane. She'd lost a shoe, a la Cinderella.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one. There we go.
I don't know what deeper meaning that has. I
don't know either.
Okay,
but
I was like,
yeah.
And he's about to go after Esther, and then he sees Fina.
Well, he trips over her.
He gets tripped by Fina.
Benito, that the sad pout, sexy as ever. God, what else?
And we find out that she is about to get on the plane to go back to San Juan. It's what Angel and Geronimo have told her to do.
Yeah, this reunion is not especially sentimental.
No, Fina's like kind of pissed. I mean, understandably.
Finally, Fina turned dry-eyed. Remember the night in the bathtub? Spat, spun, dashed off for the plane.
And then Benny, which I thought was significant, you mentioned this in your summary. He says, I did it. It was me. So he really, for the first time, admits culpability as a voyeur. That, like, by not taking action, he, in fact, has taken some pretty significant action. And he is, in some sense, culpable for what happened to Fina.
Yeah, presumably in several registers. There is, at once, the culpability of her proposition to him in the bathtub, but also when he turns away from the closed door as her brother is beating her.
Yeah, and he kind of has a little come to Jesus moment. He's like, Shlemiel's being, as he believed, passive. He could not remember ever having admitted to anything like this. Oh, man. Plus letting Esther get away, plus having Rachel now for a dependent, plus whatever would happen with Paula. For a boy not getting any, he had more woman problems than anybody he knew.
Ah, Benny.
Ah, Benny. I'm kind of proud of him, though. Like, I feel like for him to make any progress, he has to, like, own up to his role as, like, an agent in the world.
Yeah, this is a sort of first step of, he's like, he thinks he doesn't take action. He kind of is taking action through inaction. But here he's sort of recognizing that. And that's
only
growth, right?
sort of a handful of women he knows had to go through hell in order for him to have a certain realization about himself.
You know, if only he had been seeing Eigenvalue, the psychodentist, maybe he could have come to the self-realization a little sooner.
I'm not certain that Eigenvalue actually helps anyone with their problems.
You don't think Herbert Stencil is finding clarity, personal growth, and balance in his life through his conversations with Eigenvalue?
He's enabled at the very least.
Oh.
And then we get some more cops.
More cops
who watch a lot of TV and sort of pretend like they're in police procedurals because they're big fans of Dragnet.
Is Dragnet the 1950s cops? Like, is that what that is?
Yeah, Dragnet. I guess, let's see. When did Dragnet begin? Was this one of the ones that was like a radio drama at first? Yeah, so it began on the radio from 1949 to 1957. And then it was broadcast on television from 1951 to 1959. It got revived a couple times. But Dragnet is where that classic, I don't think we'll get a copyright strike or anything for this, but that like, dum, da dum, dum. That's the theme from Dragnet.
Oh.
You've heard that in any sort of like cop media.
I've already hummed the theme to SVU on here, so...
Yes,
hopefully it's a small enough snippet that we're in the clear. Where are these cops? Sorry, I lost track of the cops a little bit. They're in
Winsome's apartment. They've been sent here. I don't know if you'd say by Winsome, but Winsome has at the hospital given some kind of testimony because the officer Tin Ike, I'm going to go with that as a pronunciation, Tin Ike.
Yeah.
Says that he'd talked to a doctor there, young felon named Gottschalk. Winsome had a lot to say.
And how do you pronounce the other officer's name? It's like, looks like Patrolman Jones, but it has
the Joan.
Yeah. It's got a little V above the S. I guess is the way to, S with a V on it.
There's also several photographers. There's like a paparazzi group that are following behind.
I guess Winsome is kind of like, Winsome and Mafia are both kind of famous. Like, he's a record executive. I think they're a power couple, yeah.
Dang.
So usually Joan, so the little V is called a Caron, Caron, and over an S it represents a sh sound.
So Jonsh. Patrolman Jonsh and Officer Ten Eyck.
Ten Eyck seems to be a Dutch family name that there were like a bunch of Ten Eycks in business and politics all over New York for many decades. So it's like a Dutch New York dynasty. And then Jonsh, let's see. I'm not necessarily getting anything on because it just comes up with Jones.
It's hard to Google on a
tough,
Western or an English QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah.
Tough SEO.
Yeah, it seems like it might be a Czech name.
Okay,
someone whose Czech comes up on Wikipedia for Jonsh.
Interesting. Well,
this is your classic. This feels like Pynchon. This is your classic kind of ethnic New York cops, Irish, Italian, what have you. These are, I guess, Dutch and Czech.
And they walk in on Mafia playing musical blankets, and the camera, of the paparazzi, takes some pictures, and the photographer says, "Too bad we can't print that one."
Yeah, so they end up arresting everyone.
On a disturbing the peace charge.
Yeah.
That feels like an overreach.
Cops don't like orgies, famously.
I'm no fan of Mafia, but I feel like if you want to hold an orgy in your own apartment, you should be able to.
In this country, in your own private domicile.
If you want to play musical blankets, you should be able to play musical blankets.
Without a warrant, even.
I know.
No, they
just
do have a
because her
warrant.
husband had just tried
they
to
do,
I clapped a warrant.
Why did they get a warrant? Because Winsome tried to commit suicide?
I'm guessing this is this just like a 1950s depravity thing? Is it just illegal to have fun in the 1950s? I'm not asking a serious question. Is it actually sort of against the law to have an orgy? It might be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be. It's an odd little episode.
Little bit.
This one, maybe these officers will come back up later. There's one thing I know about this book. It's that it is extremely consistent and everything recurs in one beautiful train of association and logic.
And at the end of this chapter, we cut back to McClintock and Paula in what I thought was a really kind of beautiful passage.
Do you want to just read some of this passage?
Yeah, I'll read a couple of snippets. Let's see here. She meaning Paula, talked to him straight, and McClintock kept cool. So she kind of comes clean about who she is. While she told him about who she was, about Stencil and Fausto, even a homesick travelogue of Malta, there came to McClintock something it was time he got around to seeing, that the only way clear of the cool, crazy flip-flop was obviously slow, frustrating, and hard work. Love with your mouth shut. Help without breaking your ass or publicizing it. Keep cool, but care. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like all these chapters into V, I have kind of been looking for Thomas Pynchon to help me make sense of the horrors that are in this book and in the world. And I feel like this is the closest we've come to it so far of Thomas Pynchon maybe trying to get at an answer to that question. And also a scathing critique of the sort of whole sit crew. I was kind of thinking, a lot of what we've talked about in this chapter is that the whole sit crew doesn't care. They're disaffected. They've retreated into the abstractions that we talked about last episode. And McClintock kind of has this realization that maybe the only way through is to work hard, is to care.
Yeah, this feels like something of a thesis statement. It also feels like the line to tattoo on your body if you really like this book and want to get a tattoo of it.
Keep cool but care.
Keep cool but care. And then people are like, oh, what's that from? And then you get to tell them it's from Thomas Pynchon's V. If any of our listeners have a tattoo of keep cool but care,
please let us know.
I think it would be a cool thing to have. I'm not making fun of this idea.
Any other V-themed tattoos, let us know.
I do know a lot of people have Crying of Lot 49 tattoos.
You could totally get some cool diagram tattoos.
Yeah. Pynchon as I think there's a tattoo culture around Pynchon.
Could you get not fake, contacts, but like contacts with the zodiac signs around the rim. That would be
there you
sweet. I'm going to be the bad priest for Halloween next year.
You're just going to dress like a priest at that point.
With one contact in.
And then you just sort of ask people to lift up your shirt so you can show them your belly button on occasion. Yeah, there you go. That'll work out great.
I want to dress up as the guy with the goldfish in his belly for Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
He like shows up in dreams here and there.
Yeah. Old goldfish belly, we call him.
Old goldfish belly guy.
Keep cool but care. What do we think about this this assertion? It seems to matter a lot to McClintock. Do we think that other people in this book could take this advice well? Or where do people in this book fail either to keep cool or care? Stencil fails to keep cool.
Benny,
I think we can say. Benny fails to care in a big way.
A lot of the whole sit crew, I feel like, fails to care.
Yeah. Stencil cares too much about something.
I think Rachel cares a little too much.
Rachel doesn't keep cool, I don't think.
Rachel does not keep cool.
I think everyone is one or the other.
Esther also kind of cares too much.
Yeah. And Paula.
I don't know what's going on with Esther.
Need to keep more cool.
Yeah. And there's also this other little snippet that McClintock offers that like no one's gonna like fix the world's problems but us. Like nobody is gonna step down from heaven and square away Rooney and his woman, or Alabama, or South Africa, or us and Russia. There's no magic words. Not even I love you is magic enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've brought up Twin Peaks a couple of times on this podcast, and that specific line very much reminded me of what I've always thought is the thesis statement of Twin Peaks from one of the characters, which is that his greatest fear is the possibility that love is not enough. That there are things in this world that are darker and more powerful than love. And what do you do with that as a person, as a human being?
Yeah, which is maybe a little foreboding for some of our budding relationships that we've seen in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Profane and Rachel, McClintock and Paula.
Unless, perhaps, you acknowledge the obviously slow, frustrating, hard work
that you have to do.
Of keeping cool but caring. Yeah, I think this also feels like a definition of V a little bit. This person who would step down from heaven and square away all of these things, or if not square them away, then at least give them a coherence and say like, it is V that is the crux of all of these seemingly unrelated but potentially interrelated phenomena.
Is this a new closer for our podcast? Keep cool but care.
It could be.
We could experiment.
We could try it out.
Today.
We'll try it out later this episode and see how it fits. I'm gonna miss the alligators if we move on from it.
We could alternate.
But as far as we can tell, only Pynchon podcast that has done a series on V thus far, it could be ours to claim.
The alligator or Keep Cool But Care?
Both.
We're
defining our unique identity amidst all of the other exciting Pynchon audio work out there by our strict adherence to the gospel of V, which in its own way is the crux and center of all of Thomas Pynchon's later work, which we haven't read.
Jockeying for position, just like Stencil on the 5 o'clock bus.
Should we take a break before diving into chapter 13 at this point?
That sounds good.
Let's do it.
All right. We will be right back after this. Flop, flip, once I was hip. It's a good song.
Set, reset. Why are we beset?
Someone's got to come out with a little album of setting a lot of these to music. I learned recently, so you know that song that comes up in the last chapter that like Hitler only had one ball?
Is that a real jam?
It is a real jam, which I've read about several times. Like, it comes up in, I don't know, occasionally some like World War II stuff, or I don't know. I've come across it before, but I never knew the tune of it. And so I looked it up, and it turns out it's sung to the tune of Hitler has only got one ball. Goering has two but very small. Himmler is very similar, but Goebbels has no balls at all. I never knew that. I've just been like inventing a tune this whole time, but there's one that perfectly fits to it.
I can imagine the GIs marching and singing that and just having a good time.
Oh, what a grand old time.
I was just scrolling back to try to find another song to hum, and I was reminded that back in the Sailor's Grave, Dewey Gland was always breaking out his guitar and singing a song. I
think Dewey Gland is actually Melvin. I'm going to go on the record here.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the same person necessarily, although
I don't want to get caught off guard again.
Who knows in this book?
In a Ruby Paola situation. Melvin and Dewey Gland, same guy.
Anyways, at the very least, Melvin is the whole sick crew version of Dewey Gland.
Yeah.
Do all of Pynchon's works have this many songs in them? I mean, this is like
I think so.
Tolkien level singing as you go.
Yep, I think so.
Patrick and I were just saying during the break that we can't be too judgmental of all of these characters sort of constantly singing to themselves, because we're sort of regularly making up songs about our very sweet 19-year-old Puggle as we go about our days.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Just having a pet. That's what it's all about.
Do you make up songs about anything, Andrew?
At work, we do a thing where we will, one specific guy, we change lyrics of songs to be about him. And so we'll just sing what we call Bill songs.
Listeners, please write in. Let us know, what do you make up songs about?
Are we back in the podcast? Is this part of the podcast?
I think it needs to be part of the podcast.
All right. I guess we're back. Welcome back. We always unceremoniously hop back in.
It could be part of the end credits.
Nah, this is it.
No, we're back. Okay.
You know what
We're
to
so
expect,
back.
Pynchon Pals. Welcome back for chapter 13, in which the yo-yo string is revealed as a state of mind. Here's a summary. After moving into Rachel's apartment, Benny oversleeps and loses his job at Anthro Research. He won't let Rachel find him a new one, and their newly minted relationship grows tense as he starts acting more and more like a part of the whole sick crew, drinking at the Rusty Spoon, talking in proper nouns, etc. Paola is assaulted in bed one night by Pig, who Benny is able to curb by calling in an old favor from their Navy days, which we learn a bit about. Benny once inadvertently saved Pig from getting fried by a radar antenna. Paola offers to sleep with Benny, and he rejects her offer. Later, Benny visits his parents' empty apartment and gorges himself on their extremely Italian and Jewish food. Then Benny starts chatting with Stencil, who regales him with the pieces of the V mystery he's collected so far, and successfully convinces him to come along to Malta. After burglarizing Eigenvalue's office for the prized set of dentures, Benny and Stencil flee to the shadows of Central Park, where the world comes alive with the sounds of undercover cops getting beat up and visions of condoms floating downstream. Benny, Stencil, and Paola soon depart aboard what else but the Susanna Squaducci.
I cannot believe the Susanna Squaducci came back.
You give a ship that good of a name. I think if we're learning anything about Thomas Pynchon, it's that if you see something or somebody once, it's likely that you're going to see them again about 13 chapters later.
But Susanna Squaducci, our Maltese Falcon?
Yeah, it all resolves around it.
Is the Susanna Squaducci V?
I think V might be the Maltese Falcon in point of fact. V is the most MacGuffin-ass MacGuffin I have ever read about. Although I guess it's not quite a MacGuffin because Benny has no connection to V, does not care. One of our protagonists could not care less about V.
Are Maltese Falcons from Malta?
Oh, shit. What if V is a Maltese Falcon? Oh, what happens in this chapter?
What happens in this chapter?
Yo-yoing really is a state of mind. Because now that Benny has a nice house, a nice girlfriend,
His
he
girl
immediately
capitalized.
self-sabotages. Just instantaneously.
He doesn't self-sabotage. His alarm clock, Rachel's alarm clock sabotages him.
Yeah, but then he
just
could've-
overcome his schlemiel automaton-ness that he sees the world in, and instantaneously this alarm clock, this machine, tears him down.
But a more mature person could bounce back from that, recognize that the alarm clock is not out to get him, and like get a new job.
He does take the exit ramp on having responsibilities.
Yeah, he decides just to take the whole sick crew pill, take their approach to life, talk in proper nouns, get drunk every night.
Yeah, there's a funny, brief little scene of Benny getting sort of taken to task at Anthro Research because everything is buzzing and alarms are going off, and his boss there, and I guess not the boss, the CEO, Bergamask, Ole Bergamask.
Yeah, I think he is the CEO.
He's talking to the head honcho here, and he gets told off.
It is not good to show up an hour and 15 minutes late to your shift that starts at midnight to find the CEO there waiting for you.
Exactly. But Bergamask says technicians are not paid to wake up. That's why we have night watchmen. Which goes back to Benny's actual job, which is that he's supposed to wake people up who are also there on the night shift, but sleeping.
What happened is, for the listeners who haven't read this chapter recently, I guess in the 75 minutes that no night watchman was there, one of the experiments caught on fire. Also, where was the other guy? You're not allowed to leave if you're doing shift work. As someone who's done shift work, you don't get to leave just because you have to wait till the person comes to relieve you.
Maybe they also fired that guy. We don't know. They definitely fire Benny.
I do think, I mean, okay, I was just pretty down on Benny, but the likelihood that like things catch fire during the hour and 15 minutes that you are late to your shift, like it just seems like a low probability. Maybe the world really is out to get him.
He has a final conversation with Shroud sort of to that end. Shroud calls after him, bon voyage. What's that supposed to mean, Benny asks. We'll see. So long, old buddy. And then Shroud says, keep cool but care. It's a watchword, profane, for your side of the morning. There, I've already told you too much as it is.
Yeah, I like that Shroud seems like kind of all-knowing.
It took me a long time to be like, bon voyage. He's going on a boat.
Yeah.
A very long time.
Who would have called that Benny Profane was going to get talked into going to Malta later in this book? Yeah. I feel like this is like a Emily in Paris situation.
Benny in Malta.
Benny in Malta.
I don't think Benny's like built for the East Coast. Is he going to be able to handle going to a new country? Like Stencil and Pal are very worldly people, and Benny has been to like Florida.
No, he's been to Malta before.
I guess you're right. Duh, he was literally in Malta before. Still, but that's different.
But still,
it's
I agree.
One thing to be like on shore leave, and it's another thing to be a tourist
on the Susanna Squaducci luxury liner.
A tourist? This book has a lot to say about tourists.
Oh, a tourist.
Yeah, so at this point, as I mentioned earlier, Rachel and Benny's relationship is somewhat frayed here.
And it kind of comes out that like Rachel, really not that big. Like Rachel is kind of fed up with the whole sick crew. And it kind of comes to light that it seems like part of the reason she liked Benny was because Benny was not like the whole sick crew.
He's not like other guys.
Yeah, I think like she says at some point, it might not be in this passage right here, but at some point she says that like he's more of a man than the whole sick crew, and she feels like he's becoming less and less of a man as he integrates himself more and more into the whole sick crew.
Yeah, we sort of get this argument piecemeal as, I guess, relationship breakdowns or want to give you things in bits and pieces, but he comes home from being fired and she's initially very cool about it. You know, bad things
Benny,
happen.
your girlfriend works at an employment agency.
True. It's like she's like, in the morning, I'm just going to find you a new job. It's no big deal. Then Benny starts hanging out with the whole sick crew and with Pig, and they start drinking a lot, and they're always at the Rusty Spoon, and she's like, you got to stop. You got to stop drinking. You got to get a job. Summer's over. The college kids are gone. It's the best time to try to get a job. That doesn't stick. She ends up going out with him a little bit. Like, she's like, fine, I'll come out with the crew a little bit. I'll hang out. Then he starts smoking weed, which he's not a fan of. And it just keeps devolving from there.
Yeah, we're jumping. We can jump ahead a little bit just because I think the scene where Benny smokes weed is extremely funny. He comes in, Rachel, I smoked pot. Get out of here. What? You're turning into a phony, said Rachel. You're not interested in what it's like? I have smoked pot. It's a stupid business like masturbation. If you get kicks that way, fine, but not around me. It was only once, only for the experience, Benny says. And then Rachel replies, this may have been one of the things you were referencing, Carrie. Once, I will say it, is all. That crew does not live. It experiences. It does not create. It talks about people who do. Varese, Ionesco, de Kooning, Wittgenstein, I could puke. It satirizes itself and doesn't mean it. Time magazine takes it seriously and does mean it. It's fun, and you are becoming less of a man. That's how they sort of end off that particular argument.
Yeah, I like that Benny highlights that, like, yeah, the crew's not doing anything, but they're pretty fun.
It's fun. We're having a good time.
We're having a good time. It's fun not to care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He is keeping cooler, but he still doesn't care.
Still not caring.
But the first argument they have revolves a lot around the sort of relationship between men and women, capital W and capital M. Benny says things like that whenever any schlemiel lets a girl think there's a past, a secret dream that can't be talked about, why, Rachel, that's a con job is all it is.
Benny seems to be very purposefully self-sabotaging here, in my opinion. Like, it seems like he actually does care about Rachel and is putting on a front that, like, no, Rachel, I don't care. Like, I'm just, there's nothing inside. Like,
yeah,
men don't care. You just think we do. We put on an act. He seems like he's trying to, like, play it, a little too cool for school.
Rachel replies that, of course, women also put on acts.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, she kind of is speaking for women. She's like, we are older than you. This took me a minute to put together what she was talking about, but we are older than you. We lived inside you once, the fifth rib, closest to the heart. We learned all about it then. After that, it had to become our game to nourish a heart you all believe is hollow, even though we know different. So she's kind of referring to Adam and Eve there.
Yeah. Now you all live inside us for 9 months, and whenever you decide to come back after that.
And then he falls asleep in the middle of her impassioned speech.
Yep. They're still sleeping together.
Yeah, Benny's just being an absolute asshole, though.
He is.
Yep.
He really let me down here.
Is sort of on a similar vein, the sort of do they love each other arguments that keep occurring, where initially Benny says that he'll never love anyone, and Rachel sort of fakes going to sleep and says that she doesn't love him, and then later she sort of admits to herself that she does love him, and he kind of throws it back in her face, like, again saying, I've already told you once, like, I'm not going to be in love with you. I'm just like, Benny, come on, dude.
Yeah, I feel like this is a perfect example of exactly what McClintock Sphere was talking about, where, like, Benny encounters one obstacle. His, like, alarm doesn't go off. Yeah, it ends pretty poorly. Like, he loses his job. But he encounters one obstacle and then, like, is not able to, like, put in the hard work and work through it. And instead just, like, is doing everything he can to sort of, like, self-sabotage himself out of this relationship.
He sort of tries to turn everything into a snowball. It's like this thing goes wrong, which means, I mean, we've gotten several examples of that are sort of these comic paragraphs about his schlemielness, where, he wakes up and then he trips over and then he cuts himself shaving and then he, all of these different circumstances befall him, and he sort of in a stencil-esque way sums up all of these random accidents and happenstances into a cosmic conspiracy that defines him as a person.
Yeah, and he's trying to like prove to himself and to Rachel that he is in fact a schlemiel, even though Rachel doesn't believe that, against all odds, frankly.
There's a point where sort of in this schlemiel argument, Rachel says, people can change. Couldn't you make the effort? She was damned if she'd cry. I don't change. Schlemiels don't change. Oh, that makes me sick. She's over.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm on board with Rachel here.
Fully with her there.
The other quote, you've taken your own flabby, clumsy soul and amplified it into a universal principle. That's UP and capitalized.
Yeah, rather than putting in the work to like change himself in any way or like better himself, he's just decided that it's a universal principle that like the world's out to get him.
And this is kind of a novel about universal principles. The Schlemiel, V, history.
Heroic love.
Heroic love, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like can people ever kind of break out of the tropes that they've written themselves into?
Time is a sinusoid. Perhaps you can't. You can move away from it, but you're going to move back.
We're all like the partridge in the pear tree. I did not know that Cheese Danish number 35 would like really stick with me so much, but I feel like it keeps coming back to me.
It's
I feel like Slab was onto something there.
It should have been a Cheese Danish on the cover of this book. That would have been crazy. You'd have been like, what could this mean?
Cheese Danish number 35. That would have made an excellent book cover.
Yeah, you have a perfect excuse as a cover designer, graphic designer. Alas.
I'm going to pitch some alternative cover designs to Thomas Pynchon for the next sort of whatever anniversary release of this book is coming up next.
I think we passed the 50th, unfortunately.
Okay, maybe the 75th.
Yeah. There you go.
The 60th. People celebrate 60th anniversaries.
Indeed they do. What happens next here? Oh yeah, this is where Pig sort of tries to assault and rape Paula.
Yeah, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
They come home late after drinking. Yeah.
Follows Paula into her room and tries to assault her, and then Benny intervenes.
Yeah, and Benny does not immediately, like, he also recognizes how abrupt and sudden this is. We see that Pig is, quote, glaring at the small of her back, followed zombie-like to the bedroom and closed the door behind them. Profane hears screaming and runs in and says, "Help?" Profane puzzled. "Rape? Get this pig off me," Paula yelled. "Pig, hey, get off." And then we learned that Benny calls in a favor here that they have long held between them. And we get a little flashback to Benny and Pig, mostly Pig, in the Navy.
This is
the first time we've seen Benny in the Navy.
I love the flashbacks to Pig's Navy days. I feel like they just get increasingly more ridiculous.
So what happens in this one?
So what you need to know about Pig is that he only uses one very specific type of contraceptive, which is a French tickler. And he picked up a good handful of them in Kingston, Jamaica one time. And then through sort of an extended sequence where he's trying to help an electrical technician named Hiroshima steal electronics supplies, he gets busted. He ends up hanging out with this guy named Groomsman, and they go to Virginia Beach to sleep with flight attendants. And then while they're sort of in that hanging out stage, they decide they're going to throw water balloons at the officer who busted Pig, and they use the condoms for water balloons, but then they run out of condoms. And then Hiroshima suggests that Pig climb the mast and use a radar antenna to sort of temporarily sterilize himself.
As one does.
And on his way up, Pig runs into none other than Benny Profane hanging off the mast. And Benny tells Pig, as if this story could not get more ridiculous, that Benny has like squirreled away some hamburger.
Benny's also pulling on con jobs and robbing from the Navy.
Yeah, so he's been robbing hamburger on a regular basis from the Navy.
Because he's a bigger guy, you see, and likes to eat food.
And he has hidden his most recent stash of hamburger, like up by the radar antenna, like hanging off of the mast.
He was going to go back for it.
Yeah. And so he tells Pig, like, oh, you might see some hamburger up there. Just like, that's mine.
Yeah, don't trip on it when you find the hamburger. So it's important to note that
story.
So Benny is, quote, swinging like a bird in a bosun's chair hooked to the spar. Profane was painting the mask. Dum-de-dum-de-dum, sang Profane. Good afternoon, Pig. My old buddy, thought Pig. His are probably the last words I will ever hear.
Yeah, because he's kind of following Hiroshima's advice, but like is feeling a little scared to, I guess, like stand in front of this radar antenna to sterilize himself.
He's scared
Which
of the
it turns out is
he like the act of climbing the mast is what is concerning to him. It's less so, I think, the radio waves.
Yeah, but it turns out he should be scared of the radio waves because the hamburger up there is cooked all the way through. Well done.
He smells it. He smells the cooked hamburger and is like, what's going on there? And then he's like, oh, I really probably should not stand in front of that antenna.
Yeah, and so in effect, Benny's hamburger, and by extension, Benny, has saved his life.
And yet another example of like inaction that leads to action.
Yeah, two things I want to say here. One, as several people have commented in this section, it is perhaps a certain kind of Pynchon-esque comedy that the radio technician named Hiroshima is suggesting radiation as the solution to Pig's problem, Hiroshima being one of the cities that were hit with the atomic bomb at the end of World War II. And also, here and later on in this very chapter, we have Benny, the human yo-yo, hanging from something by a string.
A human yo-yo.
As a human yo-yo.
Indeed.
Maybe how he got the nickname.
Maybe so.
Even before he started wandering the streets. Yeah, this particular section goes on for
a long time.
A while. And we're introduced to a whole bunch of characters, most of whom I would be kind of surprised if they appear back again in this book, but you never know. A lot of sort of naval jargon thrown around.
Yeah, just sort of an amusing anecdote thrown in here.
The scaffold in Pappy Hod deployed to the Mediterranean, right? Isn't that where he's at? Are they going to be in Malta? If we get Ploy in like the last chapter of this book.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It could all come together.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Dear listener.
Stay tuned. Perhaps we've not seen the end of Knoop, Lieutenant JG, or Howie Surd, the Drunken Yeoman, or Lazar, or Teledu, or Groomsman.
Or Hiroshima.
Or hell, even Hanky and Panky, the flight attendants.
What a yarn.
What a yarn indeed. But all of this sort of moves back to this night in Rachel and Paola's apartment where Benny calls on this favor and says, like, all right, stop this. This is the moment I'm cashing that in.
And then Paola sort of inexplicably offers to sleep with Profane after he calls Pig off. And he says no. And he says, I'm not looking for any dependence. Again, adding to this idea of like dependency. And she whispers to him, you have them. No, he thought, she's out of her head. Not me. Not a Schlemiel. Schlemiel couldn't have dependence. And then Paola says, then why did you make Pig go away? And it says he thought about that one for a few weeks. So I think this is just an example of like Benny kind of wrestling with himself. He's painted this picture of himself where, he's a Schlemiel. He's too foolish, stuff happens to him. He can't possibly take care of anyone else because, he can't even take care of himself. But actually, he does have these dependents and he does take action and does have agency. He's not entirely inanimate. I don't think he's fooling anyone anymore with this schlemiel routine.
Hardly even fooling himself at this point.
Yeah.
But he's trying to.
He's trying. And speaking of dependents, the people to whom Benny was once a dependent sort of show up, or are there. Their apartment shows up anyway. Benny has parents.
Color me shocked.
But they live in New York. He's been sleeping in bathtubs and on a deflating air mattress at Winsome's.
Yep.
Yeah, and they seem like they have like a nice, little apartment with lots of food.
He's been in the city for 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Oh, Benny.
Yeah, they have a vast array of food laid out on the tables and in the kitchen. Ham, turkey, roast beef, fruit, grapes, oranges, a pineapple, plums, plate of knishes, bowl of almonds and Brazil nuts, string of garlic tossed like a rich lady's necklace, across fresh bunches of fennel, rosemary, tarragon, a brace of bacal, dead eyes directed at a huge provolone, a pale yellow parmesan, and God knows how many fish cousins, gefilte in an ice bucket. So add all that to the Pynchon cookbook.
Yes, quite some content. I did write cookbook in the margin.
Prepare, as I mentioned earlier, an extremely cross-cultural Jewish-Italian feast. You got your knishes and your gefilte next to your parmesan and bacala.
And provolone. Yeah, and Benny just, comes in. He doesn't find his parents there. He finds this sort of like massive display of food. And he's like, oh yeah, my mom, left this out. And he eats something, he eats for a little bit. And then he's like, they'll know I was here, and leaves.
Yeah, I want to point out one weird little name here, that he goes past the apartment of the Venusbergs, whose fat daughter had always tried to lure young Profane into the bathroom. I didn't know this, but a Venusberg is like a folklore concept about like where a fairy queen or some other type of seductive mystical woman would try to seduce a man and lead him into the land beyond.
Also reminds me of Fina tries to seduce Profane in the bathroom.
In a bathroom, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Venusberg is a reference to that. In French, it's called the Mont de Venus, or Mountain of Venus, which also refers to, like, anatomically is a pubic mound as well. So, Thomas Pynchon, multi-layered references. Yeah, and Venus, who we met in the chapter in Florence.
And he's had women throwing themselves at him for years.
Yes.
Again, inexplicably. Maybe it's the fact that he doesn't care.
Could be.
The ladies go crazy for that.
Could be. He figures his parents will know he's been by because he has eaten all of their food.
He didn't put the plate away. That plate's it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Did this like pile of food like kind of call back to the like decadence of Fopples at all for you all?
A little bit, yeah.
Like that was the last time we saw sort of like a disgusting amount of food, when they were like tearing into that like veal like hyenas.
You say disgusting, but I was reading this chapter, I don't know, before lunchtime, I think, and I was getting kind of hungry.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like, how long has this ham and turkey and roast beef been sitting on the counter?
They're all cured.
Yeah,
I hope, I guess. At least some of the fish is cured, some of it's on ice. They got other stuff that's salt cured, maybe.
Is anyone coming to eat this? Like, it was just sort of an inexplicable amount
Benny's
of
coming
food.
to eat it. They just keep it, ready to go in case Benny stops by.
Once in 9 months.
And this is where we get several scenes of Benny being at the Rusty Spoon and a new bar, the Forked U.
Another great name.
Yeah, many people have called this a little pun on fuck you, Forked U. But also, if you think about it, if you fork a U,
the V
it turns into a V shape. Yeah.
He's done it again.
He's done it again. He's invented a bar that has something to do with the letter V.
Yeah, so this is where he and Rachel get into the argument again about Profane being a phony.
And Stencil shows up here at the bar, kind of talking face to face with Benny kind of for the first time in this book, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some conversations, and he's like, he wants Benny to come to Malta because he is worried for himself and also kind of worried for Paula, and thinks that Benny has sort of acted as her protector and white knight before and wants him to do it again.
It's very funny to watch Stencil have a conversation with somebody else, because he is still constantly referring to himself in the third person. Stencil is leaving the country.
It feels weird just to have this plot intersect with Benny at all.
Yeah, like Stencil can't handle her, but you can.
We're well past the halfway point in the book, and it feels uncomfortable to have Benny Profane know what V is all about.
I mean, we see him do 50-some blocks of New York City at night, getting a detailed description of V. And he's confused. It's confusing. I mean, this is kind of like this chapter, or I guess him going to Malta feels like when, like, the teenage sitcom, they're getting too old and they have to go to college or something like that. And you're like, why have we changed the setting of this like multi-camera TV show after 5 seasons?
Yeah, or like the Full House episode where they go to Disneyland.
I was thinking more the Saved by the Bell, where they work at a like a beach resort for the summer. There's like a weird summer season. Leah Remini's in that one.
Strike one more tally for Andrew mentioning Saved by the Bell on the podcast.
Have I already talked about Saved by the Bell once on this podcast?
You said something that I didn't actually catch as a Saved by the Bell reference until I was editing the podcast. And I was like, I'm going to look up what Andrew just referenced. And you said you turned like a name or an episode title into a verb.
I feel like I remember. Did I say that someone got Good Morning Miss Blissed?
Yes, you said someone got Good Morning Miss Blissed. And I was like, I realized as I was editing it, I was like, I don't actually know what Andrew was talking about there. And then I was like, of course, it's fucking Saved by the Bell.
I could talk all day about Saved by the Bell, the college years, the Leah Remini season. How
Good Morning Miss Bliss.
Good Morning Miss Bliss is set in Indiana, and the next season is set in LA. They don't mention it.
Okay. What's happening in this book?
Yeah, I mean, so like Benny, he comes home from this night out with Stencil. He throws up. Rachel's like, oh, my man, throwing up in the toilet.
Is that how you interpreted that line?
That's how I interpret it. Like it says, Rachel clasped hands in front of one breast like a concert soprano. My man. I took that as like a sarcastic, like, there's my man throwing up in the toilet.
Yes. Okay. I took that the same way, but like, yeah, my intonation in my head was like more of a, my man. Hands clasped.
Yeah, they continue to fight. There was one line. I've been wondering, so throughout these fights, they keep referring to Benny coming out of a skungili shell, which
Conch
as far
shell?
as I can tell, it's like a conch shell.
Yeah.
Or like the pasta conch shell. I can't tell if it's like specifically referring to the pasta or if it's referring to the conch shell more broadly.
Well, at one point he says, like, he's kind of saying that, like, there's nothing on the inside, right? Like, there's all
Shell.
the enamel and none of the toothy material under the enamel that I don't know.
And
what it's
also,
called.
it seems like when I've Googled it, it like mostly refers to when snails or mollusks are prepared as food, which gets us another like Benny and food connection.
Another recipe,
specifically like
Cooked
another
Benny Profane.
another like Italian coded food, the scungile.
Scungile. That's much prettier than how I said it.
Scungile, however you want to pronounce it. Yes, so this is also where Benny, at long last, after Rachel has this line about the universal principle, Benny finally throws the situation with the MG back in her face and says, what about you and that MG? And Rachel says, what does that have to do with any? You know what I always thought? That you were an accessory, that you, flesh, you'd fall apart sooner than the car, that the car would go on in a junkyard, even it would look like it always had, and it would have to be 1,000 years before that thing could rust so you wouldn't recognize it. But old Rachel, she'd be long gone. A cheesy part like a radio, heater, windshield wiper blade. She looked upset. He pushed it. I only started to think about being a schlemiel, about a world of things that had to be watched out for after I saw you alone with the MG. I didn't even stop to think it might be perverted, what I was watching. All I was scared. And then Rachel tosses back at him, shows how much you know about girls. Slab was my first. None of those tweed jock straps at Schlotzhauer's got any more than a bare hand. Don't you know, poor Ben, that a young girl has to take out her virginity on something, a pet parakeet, a car, though most of the time on herself.
Tweed jockstrap is such a sick burn.
Meanwhile, Benny seems to be like clawing his scalp off. Like he keeps like scratching chunks of his scalp off, which kind of reminded me of all the dead flesh in the Porpentine chapter.
It made my head itchy, that's for sure.
You get in Benny's sort of first section of his statement, that same sort of imagery from that we talked about in the previous episode of like stacked rusting cars and like stacked decaying bodies.
Yeah, it's just like, I feel like Pynchon does a good job of sort of like painting two people who like clearly care about each other, but are doing everything in their power to be as mean as possible to each other. And like really pushing each other's buttons, like digging up the deepest and darkest and angriest moments from their shared past together.
Yeah, you get things like this, and that also reminds me of the line when Slab and Esther are fighting, when he mentions that he bets that her baby will have a big hook nose. Just, yeah, there's a...
people are throwing knives.
There's like a, not to mention another sort of theater piece, but like there's a Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf-esque quality here of just like gnashing teeth. The Pynchon is, I don't know, maybe surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, very good at writing. I think that these back and forth dialogues of vitriol.
Yeah, these people are, the whole Sick crew is kind of tearing each other apart.
I mean, we were warned that this is in the last chapter that in which things are not so amusing, in spite of all the sort of like slapstick comedy that takes place in it. This is also where Benny, a lot going on in like two little paragraphs, but he starts thinking back to his work on the ship, on the scaffold, and thinks of Hiroshima, the electronics technician. And there's this mnemonic guide for resistor color coding. Bad boys rape our young girls behind Victory Garden walls, or but Violet gives willingly, which, you know, you can imagine stands for like
BBROYG.
Yeah, like blue, black, red,
GW.
Or, you know, orange, yellow, green. One of these like Roy G. Biv situations, but presumably much more profane. Feels like something that probably actually exists in the Navy as a mnemonic. And Benny thinks to himself, could any of their resistances be measured in ohms? Someday, please God, there would be an electronic woman. Maybe her name would be Violet. Any problems with her, you could look it up in a maintenance manual.
Remove and replace was all. So actually almost sounds a little bit like our bad priest, like a woman that could be sort of put apart and disassembled, removed, replaced. Wouldn't it be easy if we didn't have to put in the hard work and we could just swap out the parts that aren't working for us, or look up what's going wrong? Why is Rachel being so mean to me?
Well, Benny has already met like a mechanical man with hot swappable parts in the case of Shock. So we'll see about the electronic woman.
Yeah, we're back at the Rusty Spoon. Stencil and Profane are chit-chatting again.
We get, this is in a lesser book, I feel like this section where Stencil is outlining kind of the plot so far of the Stencil chapters and of this character of Victoria Wren /V, who has been in all of these different chapters. In a lesser book, I feel like this would be just a basic plot summary, like catching you up to speed. If, for instance, you found those chapters kind of long-winded and twisty and a little confusing, but instead this stencil summary of these incidents is actually different than what we've seen in some of those chapters. So here, Stencil summarizes it that all along the first thread from a young, crude Matahari act in Egypt. Matahari was a spy, a courtesan and spy back in World War I, who was put to death, I believe, on charges of espionage, while Fashoda tossed sparks in search of a fuse until 1913, when she'd done all she could. He suspects that, where is it here, that she was the lover of Alistair Wren, rather than Alistair being her father, which is kind of what is presumed in some of the earlier chapters, and reflects back on this conjecture that Eul the waiter had way back when in chapter 3, that, oh, maybe she's the lover, maybe she's the daughter, maybe she's an opera singer. So again, we're just still getting these constantly shifting versions rather than a cohesive narrative, which is why it takes like 50 blocks in order to get through it.
Explain this. I thought one interesting line in here was when Stencil said, was describing Victoria and said, not even as if she were any cause, any agent. She was only there, but being there was enough, even as a symptom, which I think, Andrew, you really hit the nail on the head with the Forrest Gump analogy. Victoria Wren was there, and I think, like, again, makes this connection to, like, Profane, of, like, being kind of like Victoria Wren. Like, he is there at a lot of these events that are transpiring. He's watching, he's present, he's looking out over it, but he's not an agent. He's not acting, just like Victoria Wren was not an agent in any of these world events.
There's a sort of to Patrick's point about Stencil changing up the narrative slightly in this instance. I can't find it now, but I think Stencil says something to the effect of, like, you can look at government records, but why do that when you could talk to people who are, like, fallible?
Oh, yes. See, I found it. It's just under the spot that I was looking for about taking Sir Alistair Wren for a lover when she came of age. Stencil would rather depend on the imperfect vision of humans for his history. Somehow government reports, bar graphs, mass movements are too treacherous.
Thanks, Herbert.
Thanks, Herbert. I mean, I think it's also relevant that this is, like, I think the discipline, the academic discipline of history at this point is just starting to shift toward this idea that direct accounts of everyday, ordinary people can be just as illuminating about history as, you know, the chronicles of great men and battles. And in a certain way, Stencil is doing his own version of this, which is, I talk to people, I see what they remember about circumstances, and then I extrapolate patterns from those conversations rather than looking purely at figures or the records that have already been written down in the recorded chronicles.
In the present day, would we say that Stencil is putting together sort of an oral history?
An oral history of V, yeah. Except he's then impersonating those oral histories and sort of doing them himself.
Yeah, and, like, Benny has some funny reactions to this. He's like, okay, wait a minute. You're expecting to find this chick in Malta? Or how your father died? Or something? What?
Benny's always hitting him with the wah.
There's a great one-sentence paragraph that I guess is sort of Benny's perspective. V, by this time, was a remarkably scattered concept.
Yeah, and, like, he, like, Stencil kind of, like, then extrapolates, like, V and, like, what V has done, like did in between when we saw V in Fopple's mansion and when we saw V as, like, the bad priest, like, and, like, talks about, like, how, like, disguise, like, she's a master of disguise, not to connect back to Twin Peaks again.
Master of disguise, Wyndham Earl as V.
I see some resemblances.
You get
we learn why Stencil was in Majorca, because he was tracking down her year disguised as an old fisherman. Was he in Majorca at one point?
Yeah.
That's where we like meet him. It mentions that I guess sort of in between what we would call the 2 Victoria Rin chapters and the 2 like Vera chapters, it says that she took some time out for love, which the next chapter that we'll read is V in Love. So that's a fun preview. I guess we're going to find out what she's doing in 1913 in the next chapter.
Yeah,
Maybe something with Sydney Stencil.
We get to at the very end where Benny asks, "So what year is it?" "It's 1913, said Stencil. "Why not?" said Profane, which is how the chapter ends.
Why not?
And I like this idea that these Stencil impersonations we've been getting just happen with Stencil sort of getting a look in his eye, and everyone around him going like, "Okay, what year is it this time, bud?" And he's like, "It's 1913, on the eve of the riots."
Stencil does seem like he'd be kind of a hoot to have at a party.
Yeah, I would invite him to my party. But before we get to that point, they have to go steal. And this one I did call because I hadn't read this chapter yet. That I know someone who might be interested in a fancy set of inanimate teeth.
Yeah.
And so they have to go steal Eigenvalue's dentures as a token to offer to the mystical personage of V when they encounter them.
Sydney is so scared, or it's not Sydney, Stencil is so scared of meeting V that he's going to bring an expensive metal set of teeth as a gift.
It's only polite.
Yeah, and Profane gets kind of roped into this, and he's like, "What on earth are we doing?"
Gets roped into it literally.
Yeah, and then just like goes along with it and like relives his sort of like days of hanging off the ship's mast.
He's a mast painter.
And sort of does like a cat burglary, if you will, calling back to our buddy Porpentine, where he's sort of like dangling off the roof, like lowering himself down on a rope to try to like break into Eigenvalue's window where these teeth are stored. And it's also a very funny like slapstick scene.
Yeah,
again, very Charlie Chaplin, like hanging off of a building. Or
they say they sort of lash the rope around his waist but get the center of mass wrong, so he's just kind of flailing around. I think they say like an octopus that has had 4 legs cut off.
A quadruply amputated octopus.
At one point, Benny tries to hide from some cops going down the street, and he just puts his jacket over his head. Okay, Benny's funny. How could you not like Benny? He's just a silly guy.
And really down for anything, you know? Like, his friend's like, "Do you want to steal these dentures?" And he's like, "That's weird, but sure."
There's a very funny bit where he gets down to the window and then is like, pull me back up. And he was like, what was the plan once I got to the window? And Cincha was like, break the window. He's like, oh, okay.
He sort of does like, he does his Kilroy there. He's only not the nose above the lip of the building. I really liked when he's hanging, and I guess is sort of described as hanging horizontally, and he realizes the window is locked. And so he starts yelling up at Stencil, "Torque, torque, torque." And Stencil has to kind of twist the rope to get his feet aligned with the glass so that he can kick the window in. And then he goes and unlocks the door, Stencil comes in and is taking the teeth, and at the same time Profane is breaking other windows, and Stencil asks why he continues to break the windows, and he's basically like, if there's one window broken, they'll think it's a robbery. The implication
what
being
are they
that
gonna think?
4 or 5 windows are broken and the very valuable set of teeth are gone, that a windstorm happened.
Bunch of birds flew in, like
a bird strike.
What is the alternative?
You never know.
And then they run off into Central Park.
Yeah, which feels to me like an echo of our sort of pastoral walk through Malta in chapter 11, where we have 2 people sort of making their way into the woods as night befalls them. Only here there's this weird, there's this like warmth and like profound humanity that occurs in what is ostensibly like the wrong part of town, they encounter a plainclothes police officer trying to proposition a man for gay sex, and then the man beats up the police officer because he realizes what's happening. There's another girl built like a garbage truck driver, holding in one hand a sodden brassiere, which trailed behind her, trudges after this used contraceptive that's floating down the stream. There's a band of juvenile delinquents marching by, singing, which remind me again of the children in Malta a little bit, who are waiting in the bushes and whatnot. And amidst all of this, the moon shone brighter. The number of objects and shadows in the park seemed to multiply, warm white, warm black. And about the night park, near deserted and cold, was somehow a sense of population and warmth and high noon. Benny's people, here they are.
Loves them.
Here at night. Which, yeah, I feel like we've had a few mentions of Central Park previously in this book. I feel like Esther, at one point, when she was on the bus...
Yeah, going through Central Park.
Was like thinking about all the depravity that must be going on. And Angel and Geronimo and Profane, I feel like kind of are always at the, like...
They
drink in the Central Park.
Everybody's drinking here and shooting up and... having sex or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like almost like it's above ground, but it's nighttime and it feels a little like it's underground, if you will.
And kind of as a park, it's the opposite of the street.
That's true.
In a real way.
I hadn't made the connection to Malta. I think that's an interesting one.
Well, we've also all seen Home Alone 2, where Central Park obviously figures in a big way.
Have we all seen Home Alone 2, Patrick?
We've all
That's
seen
a bold assumption to
Home
make.
Alone 2.
I have not seen Home Alone 2.
Central Park is like a bad place, and Kevin McAllister like runs in there. He's chased by the robbers, but he's saved by the creepy woman who is always feeding the pigeons in Central Park, and learns that, even in a very sort of Benny Profane-esque way, even some people who are maybe out and about on the street at odd hours in weird places also have a humanity and a goodness.
This is the Christmas episode, so it's a great time to watch Home Alone 2.
This, indeed, yes. This is the Merry Christmas one and all. Benny Profane and Herbert Tinsel are hanging out in Central Park.
Well, and it's winter in Central Park. Right?
It's like
they say
September
it's like cold.
in Central Park.
Oh, they say it's wintry drawing room.
It is near deserted and cold. Yes, we're back to cold. It is no longer werewolf
vibes.
days. Yeah.
But maybe it's just late autumn.
And that is where we leave our heroes, united at last.
Heroes
in Central Park.
Protagonists.
We have any concluding thoughts on these sections?
These two chapters, they're sort of short and sweet. They're very action driven, which is a nice, I think, a needed change of pace after the sort of last chapter, which had very little action. But I'm sort of excited. I'm excited we're at it. We're like getting there. And I'm excited
how many episodes have we ended by saying like really feels like this book is starting to pick up and point in a direction.
I'm excited to see if this V in Love chapter is in fact going to give us the bridge like definitively between Victoria in the pre 1900 chapters and Vera in the post 1900 chapters. This like before World War I chapter is going to give us is our land bridge. Between
it seems pretty clear that like the person we encounter as the bad priest seems pretty dead by the end of World War II. So it seems unlikely that Stencil is going to encounter that person, barring some odd twist of
But he still seems a little scared of what he's going to find out.
We're finding out how they get from A to B. It's that in between. Yeah. I guess we found out A to C. We're finding out what B is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot my thought.
We're in between U and W, finding out what V is. That should have been my alphabet. That makes more sense.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
Congrats. Yeah, what are my concluding thoughts on this chapter? I think sometimes it feels like this book is divided into the whole sick crew chapters that are sort of the heart and soul about the human themes of the book, and then we have these stencil chapters that are about the big philosophical, world historical themes of the book. And I do wonder if in that we are getting a V in love chapter, which feels like V humanized to some extent, maybe separate from this world historical drama that V always seems embroiled in. Some V always seems embroiled in, if those will connect in a major way towards the end here.
I will say that the Faustus chapter felt kind of more human.
Yeah.
Like in his description of his relationship with Elena, I had a little bit of that. But yeah, I really enjoyed, like, or maybe enjoyed is the wrong word, but I thought one of the more interesting things in these two chapters was the relationship between Rachel and Profane, and getting to see them sort of like hash out. I mean, obviously it's not going well, but hash out their relationship rather than just kind of like avoid each other and like yo-yo around each other was really interesting. And I'm excited to go to Malta. If you would have asked me in the first chapter or really anywhere along the way in this book, if I thought that some portion of the whole sick crew would be traveling to Malta on a luxury liner later in this book, I would not have believed you. And here we are.
It goes places. Things happen.
Yeah.
So perhaps we shall leave y'all there. Next time on Pynchon Pals, we're doing something a little different. If you turn to your own copies of the book, you will notice that the next couple of chapters vary a little bit in length. So for that reason, in the next episode, we'll be reading chapters 14, 15, and 16, at least in my copy of the book, that's like 60-ish pages, before wrapping up with the epilogue and a kind of wrap-up episode in the episode after that. So 14, 15, and 16 for next time. And I will say to everyone, thank you for listening to Pynchon Pals. And thank you to Andrew Tillett.
You, everybody.
And to Duri Long.
Thank you very much
for joining me. If you like what we're doing here, we'd love it if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, submit a question for our Q&A episode, you can reach us at pynchonpals@gmail.com. Our theme music is Horology by the inimitable King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, released under a Creative Commons Attribution No Derivatives license on the album Polygon Dwanaland. Pynchon Pals is produced and edited by me, Patrick Fiorilli. You can find more of my work alongside my newsletter, Critical Theory Craft, at my website, www.patf.io. Us here at Pynchon Pals wish you a happy holidays. Christmas is coming up. Hanukkah is happening at the time you are listening to this. So, keep your loved ones close. Stay warm out there in the depths of winter. Or we do not at present have any analytics for whether or not our listeners are in the southern hemisphere, but stay cool if you are down there, I guess.
Keep cool and care.
See you later, alligator.
Well, which one are we going with?
Yeah, I had to test them both out, but I like See You Later, Alligator better.
Who is not impressed?
The end of the podcast. We did it.
We did it.
Woo-hoo.
Short and sweet.
Double.
That was a
2 hours and 45 minutes
raw
with
file.
a break.
Us.
Wow.
For Christmas, we got you nothing. A shorter podcast.
They've got to spend time with their families. There's only
As you're traveling home on a long flight for the holidays, you get less Pynchon Pals than usual.